Hey there. If anybody has any advice on where to start dating after 6 years of not being on a date, any pointers you could give me where to start? Because I don't know where to begin anymore. Thank you.
Welcome to The Wall. In today's video, we'll see how a divorced woman confesses that her almost something hurt her more than losing her 10-year marriage. We'll also analyze the story of a man trapped in a marriage without intimacy for a decade, living in a dead bedroom. Make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. We're aiming to reach 150,000 subscribers by March, and with your support, we can make it happen. Don't forget to leave your comments and turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos. Now, let's get started.
So I had somebody reach out to me and tell me this story, and I just want to know, do you guys think that cheating is justified at any point? And let me explain. This person reached out to me and said that he cheated on his wife after 20 years of marriage because for 10 of those years, they have not had sex. Not only have they not had sex, they've also been to marriage counseling 2 separate times on her request, and she's quit both times the moment that the therapist has held her accountable. Not only that, is he feels so lonely and so heartbroken that he feels almost invisible to his wife. He feels so invisible and so lonely in his marriage that he feels like even if he told his wife that he cheated, she wouldn't believe him or care because she literally ignores him every single day, all day, no matter what he tries to do. He has said that he has tried everything. He's gone to counseling with her, even though he doesn't want to. He's done the flowers, he's done the date nights, and most of the time, she rejects him. And let's just put this into perspective. If a woman's needs are not met, then it's his fault that she cheated. So in this scenario, if we use a woman's logic and he cheated because his needs weren't met, does that also mean that that's also okay? Because if a woman messaged me saying this, the comments would say something like, oh, he deserved it. He wasn't there for you, blah, blah, blah. But we have a different scenario where this man is literally doing everything he possibly can and nothing is working. She won't file for divorce. She keeps him trapped on purpose because she doesn't want him to move on. We finally gave in and cheated on her. What do you guys think? Okay, bye.
It's funny because it's true.
Personally, I don't support infidelity in any way. If I'm in a relationship where there's no connection within the first year, I try to work on it. If by the second year things are still the same, I file for divorce. I'm not looking for a roommate, much less one I have to financially support. Life is too short to live with someone who makes you unhappy. This man should have been upfront and left her before the situation got out of hand. Now, it's his wife's fault if he's trying to save the relationship and she's not doing her part. Even if he cheats on her, she doesn't seem to believe him or care. This makes me think that either she's also cheating on him, or she simply doesn't care about him anymore beyond what he provides. There are women who lose interest in intimacy, and this seems like a typical case of a marriage with a dead bedroom. This man has two options: leave her, which would be ideal, or find a mistress. In that scenario, the wife remains the caretaker and the perfect woman in the eyes of society, while the mistress fulfills him intimately. I don't recommend it, but there are people who live this way their entire lives. If she doesn't want to put in the effort, as many women say, he deserves to be happy too.
You know what I don't think is talked about enough in post-divorce life is how much that breakup, that very first breakup of a somewhat serious relationship where feelings are really getting involved, sucks. Like almost worse than the divorce itself. Now, what I did in my marriage was basically slow quit. No, I didn't know what that was at the time, but my feelings for him and the breakup kind of was happening over a period of years where it was just a very slow death to the relationship. And when you get out of a marriage or you separate from that person, and I jumped into another relationship within 6 months of us separating, thinking I was ready, even though technically I was still married. So don't recommend that, but you got to figure it out for yourself, you know? And that relationship moved very quickly because I went right back into wife mode. He was also recently divorced. So we were kind of each other's, I would say, rebounds. And so I kind of just went right back into wifey mode and just kind of played that role and tried to recreate those feelings. But I don't know that I got super emotionally deep with this person because I don't think that we were compatible like that. It wasn't until about a year and a half after that when there was somebody that I really felt had potential for me to fall in love with, and I dove right into that, right? And it was a love bomby, anxious avoidant kind of a thing, but I wasn't aware of what that was at the time. And it only lasted about 6 weeks and it fizzled out just as quickly as it started, but it lingered. Like that breakup and its impact on me really lingered. And here's why. Because that was the first time I had to really face that there were patterns that I thought were only exclusive to my ex husband and me and our dynamic that I started to recognize, oh, this is happening again with somebody else, or these same things are coming up, or these same feelings, or the same anxiety was coming up. I don't think I can keep blaming it on everybody else because I'm the common denominator.
Habit is stronger than love. This woman said something key. I am the common denominator. This sums up what many women realize after leaving their husbands, getting into a new relationship, and failing again. It's as if life, through karma, teaches them the hard way that they were always the problem. That's why statistics don't lie. 50% of marriages end in divorce, but second and third marriages have a failure rate of 60 to 70%. This pattern repeats itself over and over. In her case, it's clear that she didn't close one chapter before opening another. She got divorced, and 6 months later, she was already with another man. What could possibly go wrong?
Ouch! That's the hardest part about getting back into the dating world post divorce is trying to navigate the healing journey of what you thought were problems that were exclusive to your marriage that then start showing up in different relationships. And you have to now start to look at yourself as what is it that I'm either being drawn to, or what is it that I've normalized that I'm being attracted to that actually isn't in my best interest, that actually ends up hurting me. Relationships really are the best mirror to your healing and your own personal development, but most people don't choose to see it. They blame everybody else. Why? Because it's easier to blame everybody else, right? They're the problem. I'm the victim. Therefore, I don't have to change and address the things that are really challenging and, go back to attachment styles, or I don't have to do the heavy work of looking at myself. And I understand that the comfort zone of the known is much more enticing and feels safer than the risk of doing the unknown. And so that's why often people go through breakups, that they're ready to start to face the music and start on their healing journey, because staying the same is a repeated pattern that gets too painful to maintain. So just as a little bit of words of wisdom, and if you jumped right into a relationship after a divorce, you are welcome to share your advice in the comments as well. But if you're going through a divorce or you've just gotten divorced, yes, you can date. Yes, you probably should date because they're good learning lessons. But I don't want you going into those of just trying to get back into a long-term relationship. Otherwise, you're just going to repeat the patterns, right? And divorce rates on second marriages are way higher than the first time around because people don't take the time to learn themselves and to heal the parts of them that contributed to the decline of the marriage. I don't care if the other person was the main aggressor or the main reason why your marriage failed. You also were complicit in it, in that you allowed it to happen for whatever, or you made the choice to be with that partner in the first place. Like there were parts of you that created that environment for the relationship to fail as well. And that's really hard. Most people don't want to hear that, especially when the other person was a narcissist or a cheater or all of those other things. But there were parts of you that were drawn to a person that was capable of those things.
This new loss hurts you more than your divorce. Why? Because you had probably already grieved the relationship while still in it, long before asking for the divorce. As I mentioned before, the person who initiates the divorce prepares mentally to leave the relationship, while the one on the receiving end never sees it coming. That's why, when you enter a new relationship, everything seems perfect at first. If your previous marriage had a dead bedroom or an unsatisfying intimate life, this new adventure feels like paradise. Everything is twice as enjoyable, until things start to get serious and the fun ends. She admits it herself. She repeats the patterns of a wife with a man who doesn't want to play the role of a husband. That's why almost relationships hurt so much. It's a fresh wound that brings you back down to reality. It's at that moment when many people start to regret their divorce because they realize they lost someone who truly loved them. Everything that comes afterward is just a series of new, accumulated disappointments.
And those are the things that you're going to want to understand about yourself so that you don't recreate it in the future. That's where your power lies. Like, even for me, I go back to the first few months that my ex husband and I were dating. And I remember very clearly my gut and my body telling me, like, this isn't it. Like, end things with him. And I remember crying outside of his apartment, not wanting to go inside because I knew I had to break up with him. And then I didn't follow through with it. There was another time, kind of about 6 weeks before we got married, and, all invitations are out, like all of the wedding stuff was done. And I was like, I don't think this is it. But I still went through with it. And I loved him dearly and I was all in on the marriage. But I can look back at those of, like, my gut was trying to tell me that this wasn't going to be a good fit for me. And I got free will and I continued on with it. And it's not that I regret marrying him, but I regret not listening to my own voice because I did lose myself in that relationship. Beautiful learning lessons. Wouldn't change a thing because I love who I am now. But those are the moments that you can go back and look at, how was I the creator of the life that I've lived? Because it's so easy to default that other people have wronged you, other people have hurt you, but you lose all power in not recreating those painful experiences when you just leave it up to everybody else as the problem. And it is a beautiful and very tough experience to choose your own healing, to go look at the parts of you that chose this person that was hurtful towards you, or that you had the best intentions, but maybe you ignored the red flags or you ignored opportunities for you to advocate for yourself. That's where the healing work begins, is where can you take radical responsibility for your life and how it's unfolded? Because the beautiful side of that is that you then can be empowered to change and correct the things that were, I'll call it maladaptive, but were trauma responses or attachment style challenges that got you to the place that you are now, and start to make different decisions along the way so that you start to live the life and have the relationships and the partnerships and the marriage or whatever it is that you want that's really fulfilling and rewarding to you.
Hey, bro. What? Oh my God!
This woman follows the same pattern. She's into chads, men who bring nothing to the table but give her an emotional roller coaster. Even though she knew everything would go wrong, she chose to keep going. She had to go through another chad to finally realize that she was the problem from the very beginning. As the saying goes, if you play with fire, you're going to get burned. This woman's hands are already completely burned. There are many women like this. They need to go through several chads and hit rock bottom, often after 50 therapy sessions, to finally acknowledge that the problem lies in their choices. And even then, they end up blaming men for the decisions they themselves made. Responsibility will always be kryptonite for women.
And what that looks like for me is when I am kind of in the talking stages with someone, I'm very aware of how my body feels. Like, even if I'm on a date with someone and having a conversation, do I feel safe right now? Like, does my body feel comfortable? And yes, there's some newness and kind of some awkwardness when you're meeting somebody for the first time. I know for me specifically, just in the line of work that I do, when I get into coach mode, I can tell I'm not safe. It's because I'm trying not to be vulnerable, because when I'm coaching, I'm not vulnerable. It's not about me. And so if I notice I'm doing that on a date where I'm asking them coaching type questions, like, oh, tell me more about that. Oh, where do you think that comes from? Like, those types of ways as a means of me protecting myself. And so that awareness only comes from learning yourself and learning what your default protection mechanisms are, and having standards for yourself outside of dating and attachment. Like, before you start dating someone, having very clear standards on what works for you and what doesn't work for you. For me, if somebody is not self-aware and not either in therapy or doing the healing work or, doing their own personal journey, they're going to fucking hate me after a couple months, because I love those chats. I love the deep talks. I love understanding human behavior. It is my world, right? I'm very effective at it. And if they aren't on that journey themselves, they're not going to value that in me. And that is one of the qualities I value most in myself. So we're already going to be misaligned, in the experience. When you start to get attracted to a person, all of a sudden logic goes out the table because you're just trying to get the validation and attention from somebody attractive. No! There's so much more to successful relationships than attraction. And so that's my challenge to you. If you're going through a divorce, or you've been recently divorced and you're trying to figure out the dating world and relationships and what's next, is really ask yourself, have you done healing work where you feel like you understand your needs in a relationship and partnership And you will only be with someone and only entertain the idea of someone where you feel safe enough to advocate for your needs. Because if those things aren't at play, then we've just got attachment going on. It's not actually a true fulfilling relationship where you're going to thrive. You let me know in the comments. Is it important for you to do the healing work, or do you do your best healing in relationships and the ups and downs that come with that? Because it's a wild world out there, I tell y'all. It's a wild world. And hey, my name's Tara, and I'm on a mission to create a self-aware army. I'm just lonely in these self-aware streets.
When you start feeling attracted to someone, logic goes out the window. In simple terms, decisions are made based on how they make you feel. Women, being emotional by nature, tend to act from emotion. They know the man is bad for them, they're aware of the red flags, but they still jump out of the plane without a parachute because he gives them an emotional roller coaster they're addicted to. That's why I always tell men, genuine interest is non-negotiable. If a woman truly loves you, she'll keep choosing you even if you're not perfect. Many women have that savior complex, wanting to fix unstable men with the classic idea of, he'll change for me. But Chad doesn't change. We've said it countless times here, and they don't listen. They keep chasing these men and then complain about the results, forgetting that they themselves are the problem. We've reached the end of the video, but before we go, here are some questions for you. Are bad choices in a partner your own responsibility or someone else's fault? Is infidelity justifiable if your emotional and physical needs aren't being met in your marriage? If you enjoyed the video, I invite you to subscribe. I'm leaving you with 2 great videos about modern women. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss our next episode on the wall.